The snow was falling harder than Rachel had seen in years. She pulled her thick wool sweater tighter around her shoulders as she looked out the window of her small mountain cabin. The wind was howling like a wild animal, and the trees were bending. So far she worried they might snap. Rachel had moved to these Colorado mountains 3 years ago, after leaving her job as a space engineer. She needed peace and quiet after years of working with rockets and satellites. Now she spent her days taking pictures of wildlife and enjoying the silence. But tonight, the silence was broken by the worst storm she'd ever seen. Hush. She was making herself a cup of hot tea when she heard something strange. It wasn't the wind, or the creaking of her cabin. It sounded like someone crying for help, but very faintly. Rachel pressed her ear to the window, trying to hear better. There it was again. Soft, moaning sound coming from somewhere outside. Rachel grabbed her heavy flashlight and winter coat. She knew it was dangerous to go outside in weather like this, but she couldn't ignore the possibility that someone was in trouble. Maybe hikers had gotten lost in the storm. She opened her front door and immediately felt the icy wind hit her face like tiny needles. The snow was so thick she could barely see 5 feet ahead. She called out, "Hello, is someone there? Do you need help?" The moaning got a little louder. It seemed to be coming from the left side of her cabin, near the big pine tree where she usually hung her bird feeders. Rachel trudged through the snow, which was already knee-deep. Her flashlight beam danced around in the swirling white chaos. Then she saw something that made her heart skip a beat. 2 figures were lying in the snow, barely moving. They looked like people, but something seemed different about them. They were taller than normal humans, and their skin had a strange pale, blue tint, almost like they were freezing to death. "Oh my goodness," Rachel whispered to herself. She rushed over to them as fast as she could in the deep snow. The first figure was a young woman who looked to be in her 20s. Her long silver hair was spread out in the snow like spilled moonlight. The second figure was clearly her twin brother. They had the same silver hair and unusual pale skin. Both of them were wearing clothes that Rachel had never seen before. The fabric looked smooth and shiny, like it was made of metal, but it moved like regular cloth. Their boots were unlike anything she'd ever seen in stores. "Hey, can you hear me?" Rachel asked, kneeling down beside them. "You're going to be okay. I'm going to help you." The young woman's eyes fluttered open. Rachel gasped. Her eyes were the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. They seemed to change color from blue to green to purple, like looking at an oil spill on water. The woman tried to speak, but no words came out. Instead, Rachel suddenly had a strange feeling in her head. It was like someone was showing her pictures, but inside her mind. She saw images of a bright light in the sky, something crashing into the mountains, and these 2 people walking through the snow for what seemed like days. "This is impossible," Rachel muttered. "But I need to get you inside before you freeze." The young man's eyes opened too, and he had the same color-changing eyes as his sister. He tried to sit up, but collapsed back into the snow. Rachel could see that both of them were extremely weak. Rachel was a small woman, but she was strong from years of hiking in the mountains. She helped the young woman to her feet first. Woman was surprisingly light, as if her bones were hollow like a bird's. She leaned heavily on Rachel as they made their way to the cabin. "Just a few more steps," Rachel encouraged her. "You're going to be warm soon." Once she got the first twin inside, Rachel went back for the young man. He was even taller than his sister, probably close to 7 feet tall, but he was just as light. Rachel wondered if they were suffering from some kind of illness that made them lose weight. Inside her cabin, Rachel laid both twins on her couch and covered them with every blanket she owned. She turned up the heat and started a fire in her fireplace. The twins were shivering violently, and their lips looked almost blue. "Let me get you some warm tea," Rachel said, heading to her kitchen. While she was preparing the tea, she kept glancing back at her unexpected guests. Now that they were in good light, she could see that something was definitely unusual about them. Their skin wasn't just pale, it was almost translucent, like she could see veins underneath. Their hair looked like real silver, not gray or white like older people had. But the strangest thing was their hands. Their fingers were longer than normal human fingers, and they had an extra joint in each finger. When Rachel looked closer, she noticed their ears were slightly pointed at the tips. "What in the world?" she whispered to herself. Rachel brought the tea over to the couch. The young woman was awake now, looking around the cabin with wide eyes. She seemed amazed by everything, the electric lights, the fireplace, even the simple wooden furniture. "Here, drink this slowly," Rachel said, helping her sit up. "It will warm you up." The woman took the mug with her strange, long fingers and sipped the tea. A look of pure joy crossed her face, like she was tasting something wonderful for the first time. The young man was still unconscious, but he was breathing steadily. Rachel noticed that when his sister touched his forehead, a very faint glow seemed to come from her fingertips. It was so subtle that Rachel thought she might be imagining it. "Who are you?" Rachel asked gently. "Where did you come from?" The young woman looked at Rachel with those incredible, color-changing eyes. Again, Rachel felt strange pictures forming in her mind. She saw a place that looked like Earth, but with two suns in the sky. She saw cities that seemed to be made of light and people who looked like these twins. Then she saw something terrible. One of the suns was getting bigger and brighter, and the cities were being destroyed. She saw ships flying away from the planet, and families being separated. She felt the deep sadness and fear these people were experiencing. "You're not from here, are you?" Rachel asked softly. The young woman shook her head. Tears were rolling down her cheeks, but even her tears seemed to have a slight shimmer to them. Rachel sat back in her chair, trying to process what was happening. 3 years ago, she had been working on projects involving the search for life in space. She had always believed that other intelligent beings existed somewhere in the universe, but she never imagined she would meet any of them in her own living room. The young man started to wake up. His eyes opened, and he looked around in confusion. When he saw Rachel, he tried to sit up quickly, but his sister put a gentle hand on his chest to keep him lying down. The twins began speaking to each other in a language that sounded like music. It was beautiful, with sounds that seemed to flow, like water. Rachel watched in amazement as they communicated. Then the young man looked at Rachel and nodded his head in what seemed like gratitude. Like his sister, he seemed to be able to put pictures in Rachel's mind. She saw images of kindness, of safety, of gratitude for being rescued. "You're welcome," Rachel said, even though they hadn't spoken out loud. "You're safe here." As the night went on, Rachel sat by the fire watching her strange guests. The twins seemed to be recovering their strength, and they were talking quietly to each other in their musical language. Every now and then, one of them would look at Rachel with obvious gratitude. Rachel made some simple soup and crackers. Twins ate carefully, as if they were trying to understand the taste of human food. They seemed to enjoy it, though they ate very small portions. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside the cabin, there was a peaceful feeling. Rachel found herself not being afraid of these unusual visitors. Despite their strange appearance, they seemed gentle and kind. As midnight approached, Rachel realized she was witnessing something that would change her life forever.
How?
She had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but she knew that nothing would ever be the same. The young woman caught Rachel's eye and smiled. It was a sad smile, but also hopeful. Rachel smiled back, and in that moment, she felt a connection that went beyond words, or even the strange mental pictures they had been sharing. Outside, the wind continued to howl, but inside the small mountain cabin, 3 beings from 2 different worlds were finding comfort in each other's presence. Rachel looked at the twins sleeping peacefully on her couch and wondered what amazing story they would tell her when they were strong enough to truly communicate. She had a feeling that her quiet life in the mountains was about to become very interesting indeed. Rachel woke up the next morning to the smell of something burning. She jumped out of bed and ran to the living room, expecting to find her cabin on fire. Instead, she found the 2 twins sitting by her fireplace, looking embarrassed and pointing at what used to be her coffee maker. The machine was now a twisted piece of metal that looked like modern art. The young woman was holding a small device that looked like a smooth stone, and it was glowing with a soft blue light. "Oh no," Rachel said, rubbing her eyes. "What happened? To my coffee maker?" The young man looked down at his hands, clearly feeling bad about what had happened. The woman held up the glowing device and pointed at the broken coffee maker. Then she touched Rachel's forehead very gently. Suddenly, Rachel's mind filled with images. She saw the twins trying to help her by making coffee, but they didn't understand how human machines worked. The woman's device had somehow sent too much power to the coffee maker, causing it to melt. "It's okay," Rachel said quickly, seeing how upset they were. "It was an old coffee maker anyway. Right. I can make coffee the old-fashioned way." The relief on their faces was obvious. The young woman smiled and nodded, then held up one finger as if asking Rachel to wait. She touched her glowing device to the twisted metal, and Rachel watched in amazement as the coffee maker began to change shape. It didn't go back to being a coffee maker, but it transformed into something beautiful. The melted metal became a perfect sculpture of a bird in flight. The surface was smooth and shiny, and it seemed to catch the morning light in the most beautiful way. "That's incredible," Rachel whispered, picking up the metal bird. It was warm to the touch and surprisingly light. The young man smiled for the first time since Rachel had found them, said something in their musical language, and his sister nodded. Then she pointed to herself and said very carefully, "Kira." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. They were trying to tell her their names. "Kira," Rachel repeated, and the young woman's face lit up with joy. The young man pointed to himself and said, "Dex." "Dex and Kira," Rachel said, looking at both of them. "I'm Rachel." "Marcel," Kira said slowly, as if she was tasting the name. For the next hour, they sat around Rachel's kitchen table, sharing a simple breakfast of toast and jam. The twins ate very carefully, as if they were studying the food. Rachel noticed they only ate small bites and seemed to be analyzing each taste. Kira held up her glowing device again and touched Rachel's hand. This time the images in Rachel's mind were clearer and more detailed. She saw their home planet, which looked like Earth, but with purple skies and 2 suns. The cities were made of what looked like living light, growing and changing like plants, but shining like stars. She saw their people, tall, graceful beings with silver hair and color-changing eyes. They lived in harmony with their planet, using technology that worked with nature instead of against it. Their buildings grew from the ground like trees, and their vehicles floated through the air without making any noise. But then Rachel saw the disaster. One of their sons began to grow unstable. It started sending out dangerous radiation that made their people sick and killed their beautiful cities. The leaders of their world realized they had to leave, but their ships could only carry a small number of people. "You had to leave your families behind," Rachel said softly, tears forming in her eyes. Kira nodded sadly through the mental images. Rachel understood that Kira and Dex were part of a group sent ahead to find safe places for their people to live. They had been traveling through space for months, looking for a planet that could support their kind. Dex touched the device next, and Rachel saw their ship crashing into the mountains during the storm. The ship was damaged beyond repair, and most of their supplies were destroyed. They had been walking through the snow for 3 days, getting weaker and weaker when Rachel found them. "You're scouts," Rachel said, understanding. "You're looking for a place where your people can live safely." Both twins nodded. Kira showed Rachel more images, other ships scattered across the galaxy, searching for new homes. Some of their people had already found places to live, but they needed more safe havens. "Why Earth?" Rachel asked. X shared an image that made Rachel gasp. She saw Earth from space, but it looked different than the pictures she remembered from her NASA days. There were colors and energy patterns around the planet that weren't visible to normal human eyes. Earth was glowing with a special kind of energy that was perfect for their people. "Our planet gives life energy," Kira said in broken English. "Your planet. ... Same energy. Good for us." Rachel sat back in her chair, trying to process everything. "How many of you are there?" Kira held up her hands, showing all 10 fingers, then repeated the gesture several times. Rachel realized she was trying to say there were hundreds of their people, scattered across different ships. "And you're all looking for places to live?" Both twins nodded. Dex showed Rachel an image of small groups of their people living quietly. In remote places on Earth, in deep forests, on isolated islands, in mountain valleys like this one. They were trying to stay hidden while they figured out how to survive on a new planet. "Have you been here long?" Rachel asked. Kira showed her images going back several years. Rachel saw their people arriving in small groups, learning about human culture from a distance, trying to understand how to fit in without being discovered. Some of us learn human ways, Kira said. We study, we watch, we try to be. What is word, ... invisible? Rachel was amazed. There are others of your kind already living on Earth? Dex nodded and shared an image that shocked Rachel. She saw people who looked almost completely human, but with subtle differences, slightly taller, more graceful, with an unusual beauty that made them stand out. They were working in human jobs, living in human cities, but they were actually refugees from the dying planet. They hide in plain sight, Rachel whispered. Yes, Kira said, but dangerous. Some humans know we exist. Some humans want to catch us. This sent a chill down Rachel's spine. The government knows about you? Dex showed her frightening images of their people being chased by men in black suits, of ships being captured, of their kind being taken away to places where they were studied like laboratory animals. That's terrible, Rachel said. How can humans be so cruel? Not all humans, Kira said gently, but you are kind. You help us. Some humans like you. Rachel felt a warm feeling in her chest. Despite everything these beings had been through, they still had hope. They still believed that some humans could be trusted. What do you need? Rachel asked. How can I help? Kira and Dex looked at each other and had a quick conversation in their musical language. Then Kira held up her device again and shared new images with Rachel. She saw a beautiful valley deeper in the mountains, hidden from roads and hiking trails. It was the perfect place for a small group of their people to live safely. The valley had fresh water, good soil for growing food, and natural protection from both weather and curious humans. You know this place? Kira asked. Rachel nodded excitedly. I've been there. I take pictures of the wildlife there sometimes. It's about 10 miles from here, and nobody ever goes there because it's so hard to reach. The twins' faces lit up with hope. Dex shared an image of a small village in the valley, with buildings that looked like they grew from the earth itself. Their people could live there peacefully, hidden from the world, but close enough to help other refugees who needed shelter. But how would you get there? Rachel asked. And how would you survive? Kira smiled and held up her glowing device. We have technology. We can make what we need, but we need a friend. Someone who understands humans. Someone who can help us stay hidden. Rachel felt a flutter of excitement mixed with fear. They were asking her to be part of something bigger than anything she had ever imagined. They wanted her to help alien refugees start a new life on Earth. This is crazy, Rachel said, but she was smiling. 3 days ago, the most exciting thing in my life was photographing a family of deer. Now you're asking me to help establish a secret alien colony? You will help? Dex asked, hopefully. Rachel looked at these two beautiful, kind beings who had lost everything and were asking for her help. She thought about her old life working with space technology, always wondering if there was intelligent life out there. Now she had her answer, and they needed her. Yes, she said firmly. I'll help you. The joy on Kira and Dex's faces was worth any risk Rachel might be taking. As they began planning how to reach the hidden valley, Rachel realized her quiet mountain life was about to become the greatest adventure of her lifetime. 3 days had passed since Rachel agreed to help Kira and Dex. They had been planning their trip to the hidden valley, but this morning something was different. The twins seemed nervous, whispering to each other in their musical language and glancing at Rachel with worried expressions. Rachel was making breakfast when Kira approached her with the glowing device in her hands. Rachel, she said carefully, we must tell you something important. Something we did not say before. What is it? Rachel asked, setting down her coffee cup. Dex joined them at the kitchen table, looking serious. We are not the first, he said. In his broken English, the first what? Rachel asked. Kira touched her device and placed it on the table. Instead of touching Rachel's forehead, she activated it differently this time. A soft blue light filled the room, and suddenly Rachel could see images floating in the air like a hologram. The first image showed a busy city street. People were walking, talking, going about their normal lives. But as Rachel looked closer, she noticed something strange. Some of the people looked almost too perfect. They were taller, more graceful, with an unusual beauty that made them stand out from the crowd. Those are your people, Rachel whispered. They're living in human cities, yes, Kira said. For many years, our people have been coming to Earth, small groups, hiding among humans. The hologram changed to show different scenes. Rachel saw beings like Kira and Dex working in offices, teaching in schools, even working in hospitals. They looked almost completely human. But Rachel could now see the subtle differences, the slightly pointed ears, the graceful way they moved, the unusual beauty that made people turn their heads. How many? Rachel asked. Thousands, Dex said quietly. All over your world. In your big cities, your small towns. They learn human ways. They take human jobs. They try to fit in. Rachel felt dizzy. Thousands of aliens have been living on Earth, and nobody knows. Some humans know, Kira said sadly. That is the problem. The hologram showed a new scene that made Rachel's heart sink. She saw men in dark suits, chasing people who looked like Kira and Dex. She saw laboratories where their people were being held against their will. She saw ships being taken apart and studied. Your government has been hunting us for 20 years, Dex explained. They know we exist, but they want to control us. They want our technology. Rachel thought about her old job at the space agency. Is that why you're hiding? Because the government is after you? Yes, but also no, Kira said. Right. We hide because we are not supposed to be here. The hologram changed again, showing Rachel something that made her gasp. She saw a meeting room with people who looked like Kira and Dex, but older and wearing formal clothes. They were arguing with each other, their musical language sounding urgent and angry. Our leaders, Dex explained. They did not want us to come to Earth. They said it was too dangerous for humans and for us. But our son was dying, Kira added. Some of us left anyway. We had no choice. Rachel was trying to understand. So you're refugees, but you're also... What? Illegal immigrants from space? Is both twins said at the same time? The hologram showed more images. Rachel saw the refugees' home planet as it was now, a dying world with cities that were dark and empty. The beautiful living light that had once made their buildings glow was fading away. The purple skies were turning gray. Those who stayed behind are dying, Kira said with tears in her eyes. Every day more of our people get sick from the radiation, but our leaders still say we should not ask other planets for help. That's terrible, Rachel said. Why won't they ask for help? Dex shared an image that showed Rachel the answer. She saw their leaders' memories of other worlds they had visited in the past. Some planets had welcomed their people, but others had been afraid and had attacked them. One planet had even tried to steal their technology and use it as a weapon. They think all species are dangerous, Kira explained. They think it is better to die with honor than to risk bringing danger to others. But you don't agree, Rachel? Said, we believe in hope, Dex said firmly. We believe some people, like you, can be trusted. Rachel was quiet for a moment, processing everything. Then she asked, what about the technology? The government wants it. Is it dangerous? Kira and Dex looked at each other nervously. Then Kira held up her device. This is very simple technology for us, she said. Look like a calculator for you. She touched the device, and it began to transform. Rachel watched in amazement as it changed from a smooth stone into what looked like a complex machine with moving parts and glowing crystals. It can do many things, Kira said. It can heal sickness, make clean water, create energy from sunlight, even help plants grow faster. That's incredible, Rachel said. No wonder the government wants it. But this is nothing, Dex said. Real technology is much more powerful. It can change the weather, move mountains, even help people live longer. Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. That kind of technology in the wrong hands could be very dangerous, Kira finished. That is why we hide it. That is why we only use simple tools like this one. The hologram showed Rachel one more image that made her heart stop. She saw herself, but not as she was now. She saw herself from years ago, working at her job with space technology. She was looking at data on a computer screen, data that had helped her make a breakthrough in her career. What is this? Rachel asked, her voice shaking. You helped design new satellite technology, Dex said gently. Technology that could find planets like ours, yes? But how do you know about that? Kira looked embarrassed. Because we helped you. What do you mean? One of our people was working at your space agency, Kira explained. He saw you struggling with a problem. He left some information where you could find it. Information that helped you solve the problem. Rachel stared at the hologram, remembering that breakthrough. She had been stuck on a project for weeks. Then one day she had found some research papers that gave her the exact information she needed. She had always wondered where those papers had come from. You're saying an alien helped me with my work? Rachel asked. Yes, Dex said. Our people have been helping humans for many years. We share knowledge carefully, in ways that look like human discoveries. We want to help your species grow and learn. But we have to be very careful, Kira added. If we help too much, too fast, it could cause problems. Rachel thought about all the technological advances that had happened in recent years. How much of human progress has been influenced by your people? Some, Dex said. Not all. Humans are very smart and creative. You would have discovered most things on your own. We just helped you discover them a little faster. Rachel felt overwhelmed. Everything she thought she knew about human achievement was being turned upside down. Are you telling me this? Because we trust you, Kira said. Us. And because you deserve to know the truth. Also because we need your help more than ever, Dex added. The government is getting closer to finding us. They have new technology that can track our energy signatures. Soon they will find all of our people. What happens then? Rachel asked. They will try to capture us, Kira said. They will try to force us to give them our technology. And when our leaders find out that we have been discovered, they will leave, Dex finished. They will take all our people and leave Earth forever. Even those who are dying on our home planet will not be allowed to come here. Rachel felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. If the government finds you, it's over for all of your people. Yes, both twins said together. Rachel looked at Kira and Dex, these gentle beings who had lost everything and were just trying to survive. She thought about the thousands of their people who were already living on Earth, contributing to human society in their own quiet way. She thought about the ones still dying on their home planet, hoping for a chance to find refuge. Then we have to make sure they don't find you, Rachel said firmly. The relief on the twins' faces was immediate. You still want to help us, Kira? Asked more than ever, Rachel said. But we need to be smarter about it. We need to get you to that valley as soon as possible. There is one more thing, Dex said hesitantly. The reason we chose you, Rachel, it was not just because you found us. What do you mean? Kira activated her device one more time. The hologram showed Rachel's brain, but it was glowing with the same energy patterns she had seen around Earth from space. You are special, Kira said. Your mind can connect with our technology in ways that most humans cannot. That is why our person at your space agency chose to help you specifically. Rachel stared at the image of her glowing brain. Are you saying I'm not entirely human? No, Dex said quickly. You are completely human. But some humans have minds that work differently. Minds that can bridge the gap between our species and yours. You are what we call a connector, Kira explained. Someone who can help our peoples understand each other, Rachel laughed. But it was a nervous laugh. So I'm like a translator between humans and aliens. Yes, both twins said, smiling. Rachel shook her head in amazement. 3 days ago, I was just a photographer, living alone in the mountains. Now, I'm apparently some kind of cosmic diplomat. Will you accept this role? Kira asked seriously. Rachel woke up to the sound of helicopters. First she thought it was just her imagination, but the sound was getting louder and closer. She jumped out of bed and ran to the window, her heart racing. Through the trees, she could see 3 black helicopters circling her cabin like vultures. The sound was deafening, and she could feel the vibrations through the floor. Kira, Dex, she called out, running to the living room. But the couch was empty. The twins were gone. Rachel's mind raced. Where could they have gone? She checked every room in the cabin, but there was no sign of them. Then she noticed something strange. The air in the living room seemed to shimmer slightly, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Kira, she whispered, are you there? Suddenly Kira's voice came from nowhere. We are here, Rachel. We are invisible, but we are here. Rachel felt a mixture of relief and fear. The helicopters, they found us somehow. Yes, Dex's voice said from somewhere near the fireplace. We can sense their technology. They have machines that can detect our energy even when we are hidden. The helicopters were landing now. Rachel could see men in dark suits jumping out, carrying equipment that looked like nothing she had ever seen before. They had devices that beeped and flashed, and they were all pointing toward her cabin. What do we do? Rachel asked. You must act normal, Kira said. Pretend you are alone. We will stay invisible, but we cannot hide from their machines for long. There was a loud knock on Rachel's door. Actually, it was more like pounding. This is Agent Thompson with the Department of Unusual Phenomena. A stern voice called out. Open the door immediately. Rachel's hands were shaking as she walked to the door. She took a deep breath and opened it to find a tall man with gray hair and cold blue eyes. He was wearing a black suit that looked expensive, and he had the kind. A face that never smiled. It's Chen, he said, looking at a tablet in his hand. We need to search your property. What for? Rachel asked, trying to sound calm.
Oh!
I haven't done anything wrong.
Oh!
We have reason to believe you are harboring unauthorized visitors, Agent Thompson said. Step aside, please. Rachel had no choice but to let them in. 6 agents spread throughout her cabin, carrying their strange beeping devices. The machines were going crazy, beeping and flashing red lights everywhere. Interesting, Agent Thompson said, looking at his tablet. Very high energy readings. It's much higher than we expected. It's one of the agents, a woman with short black hair. Approached Thompson. Sir, the readings are off the charts, but we can't locate the source. It's like the energy is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Rachel tried to keep her face neutral, but inside she was terrified. She could feel Kira and Dex nearby, but she couldn't see them. She hoped their invisibility trick would work. Miss Chen, Agent Thompson said, turning to Rachel. You used to work for the space agency, didn't you? Yes, Rachel said, but that was years ago. I'm retired now. Retired, Thompson repeated, looking around the cabin. And you chose to live here, in the middle of nowhere, right in the area where we detected the crash. Rachel's blood ran cold. What crash? Don't play dumb with us, Thompson said. 5 days ago, our satellites detected an unidentified object crashing in these mountains. We've been tracking unusual energy signatures ever since. The female agent held up her device. Sir, look at this. The energy pattern matches the signatures we've been tracking for years. This is definitely their technology. Thompson nodded. Grimly, we know they're here, Ms. Chen. We know you've been in contact with them. The question is, are you going to cooperate with us, or are you going to make this difficult? Rachel felt anger building inside her. I don't know what you're talking about, really. Thompson pulled out his tablet and showed Rachel a series of photographs. They showed her walking outside her cabin with Kira and Dex, helping them, giving them food. The pictures had been taken from far away, but they were clear enough to see the twins' unusual appearance. We've been watching you for 3 days, Thompson said. We know exactly what's been happening here. Rachel's heart sank. They had been watching her the whole time. How? Your old colleague, Dr. Peterson, has been very helpful, Thompson said with a cold smile. He's been monitoring communications. From this area, ever since you moved here? When we detected the crash, he suggested we keep an eye on you. Rachel felt like she had been punched in the stomach. Dr. Peterson had been her mentor at the space agency. She had trusted him completely. He's been spying on me. He's been protecting national security, Thompson corrected. You knew that? If any of these beings survive the crash, they would likely seek help from someone with your background and unique qualifications. What do you mean, unique qualifications? Thompson's smile got colder. We know what you are, Ms. Chen. We know about your ability to interface with their technology. We've been studying people like you for years. Rachel felt the world spinning around her. People like me? Connectors? Thompson said. Humans, whose brain patterns are compatible with alien technology. You're quite rare, actually. Very valuable. The female agent spoke up again. Sir, the energy readings are getting weaker. I think they're trying to leave. Thompson immediately became more aggressive. Where are they, Miss Chen? We know they're here. Our equipment can detect them even when they're invisible. Rachel looked around the cabin desperately. She could still feel Kira and Dex's presence, but she didn't know how much longer they could stay hidden. I don't know what you're talking about, Rachel said again. Thompson sighed and pulled out a different device. This one looked like a gun, but it glowed with the same blue light as Kira's technology. This is a containment weapon, he said. It's designed specifically to neutralize their invisibility shields. He pointed the device at the area near the fireplace and fired. A wave of energy filled the room, and suddenly Kira and Dex became visible. They were standing together, holding hands, their eyes filled with fear. There you are, Thompson said with satisfaction. Kira and Dex, if I remember correctly from our files. Rachel was shocked. You know their names? We know everything about them, Thompson said. They're part of a group we've been tracking for months. We already have their ship. Kira gasped. Our ship? Found it 2 days ago, Thompson said. Completely destroyed, unfortunately. But we were able to recover some very interesting technology. Dex stepped forward, his hands glowing with energy. You will not take us. Actually, we will, Thompson said, pointing his weapon at Dex. And you won't resist, because if you do, we'll make sure that Miss Chen here faces charges for treason. Rachel felt helpless. Leave them alone. They haven't hurt anyone. They're illegal aliens, Thompson said. Literally. They have no right to be on this planet. They're refugees, Rachel said angrily. Their planet is dying. They just need help. Their problems are not our problems, Thompson said. But their technology is definitely our interest. The female agent was checking her device again. Sir, I'm detecting more energy signatures approaching. Multiple contacts, moving fast. Thompson's expression changed to one of concern.
Ow.
Many, at least a dozen, sir. They're coming from all directions. Suddenly the cabin was filled with a beautiful musical sound. It was like singing, but more complex and harmonious than any human voice. Kira and Dex's faces lit up with hope. Our people, Kira whispered. They have come to help us. Through the windows, Rachel could see figures moving through the forest. They looked like Kira and Dex, tall and graceful, but these beings were wearing what looked like armor made of light. They moved with incredible speed and silence. Defensive positions, Thompson ordered his agents. Prepare the containment weapons. Wait, Rachel said desperately. You don't understand. They're not here to fight. They're here to rescue their people. Same thing, Thompson said, raising his weapon. But before he could fire, something incredible happened. The cabin filled with the same shimmering energy that had made Kira and Dex invisible. Rachel felt a strange tingling sensation, and suddenly she could understand the musical language the aliens were speaking. Do not harm the human, a voice said in her mind. She is under our protection. Thompson fired his weapon, but the energy blast seemed to bend around the aliens like water flowing around a rock. They didn't even slow down. Impossible, Thompson muttered. The containment weapons should work. One of the newcomers, an older alien with silver hair that seemed to glow, stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but firm. Agent Thompson, you will release our people and leave this place. How do you know my name? Thompson demanded. We know many things about you, the older alien said. We know about your secret facilities. We know about our people you have captured. We know about your plans to weaponize our technology. Thompson's face went pale. You've been spying on us? We have been protecting ourselves, the alien corrected. Now we are protecting our children. He gestured to Kira and Dex, who ran to his side. Rachel watched in amazement as the older alien embraced them like a father welcoming his children home. This isn't over, Thompson said, backing toward the door. We know you're here now. We'll find all of you. No, the older alien said sadly. You will not. The bright light faded, and Rachel found herself standing in the most beautiful place she had ever seen. She was in a vast cave, but it didn't feel like being underground. The walls were covered in crystals that gave off a soft, warm light, making everything glow like she was inside a star. Welcome to our temporary home, the older alien said, still holding the glowing crystal. My name is Elder Theron. I'm the leader of our people here on Earth. Rachel looked around in wonder. The cave was huge, with passages leading off in every direction. She could see other aliens moving about, some tending to what looked like gardens growing in the crystal light. Others working with technology she couldn't begin to understand. "How many of you are there?" Rachel asked. "Here, about 50, Elder," Theron said. "But across your planet, there are thousands of us. We have been preparing for this day for many years." Kira took Rachel's hand. "We brought you here because we need your help with something very important." "What kind of help?" Rachel asked. Dex pointed to a large crystal formation in the center of the cave. It was beautiful, but Rachel could see that something was wrong with it. Parts of it were dark, and it seemed to be flickering like a dying light bulb. "This is our communication crystal," Elder Theron explained. "It allows us to contact our home planet and the other ships scattered across the galaxy. But it is failing." "Why?" Rachel asked. "Because it needs to be connected to Earth's energy network," Kira said. "But we cannot do it ourselves. It requires a human mind to bridge the connection." Rachel felt a familiar flutter of excitement and fear. "You need me to be a connector again." "Yes," Elder Theron said. "But this time, it is much more important. If we cannot repair the crystal, we cannot warn our people about the government agents. We cannot coordinate our escape. We cannot call for help from the other ships." Rachel walked closer to the crystal. She could feel energy radiating from it, like standing near a campfire. "What do I have to do?" "Place your hands on the crystal and open your mind to it," Elder Theron said. "Your brain patterns will help it connect to Earth's natural energy field." Rachel hesitated. "Is it dangerous?" "We do not know," Elder Theron said honestly. "No human has ever tried this before. But without it, we are trapped here, and the government will eventually find us." Rachel thought about Agent Thompson and his cold eyes. She thought about all the aliens who were hiding on Earth, trying to live peaceful lives. She thought about the ones still dying on their home planet, waiting for news that never came. "I'll do it," Rachel said. She placed her hands on the crystal and immediately felt a surge of energy flowing through her body. It didn't hurt, but it was overwhelming. She could suddenly sense things she had never felt before: the heartbeat of the planet, the movement of energy through the Earth, the life force of every living thing for miles around. The crystal began to glow brighter, and Rachel could hear something like music coming from it. But this wasn't the beautiful singing she had heard from the aliens. This was something much bigger and more complex, like the voice of the planet itself. "It's working," Kira said excitedly. "The crystal is connecting to Earth's energy field." Suddenly, Rachel's mind was filled with images. She saw alien ships all over the galaxy, receiving the signal from the crystal. She saw communities of refugees on dozens of different planets, all connected by the same crystal network. And she saw something that made her heart race: a massive ship approaching Earth, carrying thousands of aliens from their dying home planet. "The evacuation ship," Elder Theron said, reading her thoughts. "They left our planet 3 months ago. They should arrive here in 2 weeks." "2 weeks?" Rachel asked. "But Agent Thompson said they would find all of you." "That is why we need your help with something else," Elder Theron said. "We need to create a permanent safe haven for our people, somewhere the government cannot find us." The images in Rachel's mind changed. She saw the hidden valley she had told Kira and Dex about, but now it looked completely different. The valley was filled with buildings that seemed to grow from the Earth itself, glowing with the same soft light as the crystals in the cave. She saw gardens where human and alien plants grew together, creating something beautiful and new. "Want to build a city in the valley?" Rachel said. "Yes," Elder Theron said. "But not just any city. A city that exists between dimensions. A place that is here on Earth, but also not here. A place where the government's machines cannot detect us." Rachel was amazed. "Is that possible?" "With your help, yes," Kira said. "You are the bridge between our two worlds. You can help us create a space where both humans and our people can live together." Rachel felt the weight of the decision. "What about the other humans? What about people like Agent Thompson?" "That is the most important part," Elder Theron said. "We cannot hide forever. Eventually, your people and our people will have to learn to live together. But first, We need a safe place where we can prove that we are not a threat." The crystal pulsed with energy, and Rachel saw more images. She saw humans and aliens working together, sharing knowledge and technology. She saw diseases being cured, environmental problems being solved, and new discoveries that would benefit both species. But she also saw the darker possibilities. She saw wars fought with alien technology, governments trying to control and exploit the refugees, and fear destroying any chance of peace between the two species. "The choice is yours, Rachel," Elder Theron said gently. "You can help us create this safe haven, or you can return to your old life. We will not force you." Rachel looked around at the aliens in the cave. They were all watching her hopefully, but she could see that they would accept whatever decision she made. These were people who had already lost everything once. They understood that sometimes you had to accept what you couldn't control. "If I help you," Rachel said, "what happens to me? Do I stay with you permanently?" "You would be our ambassador," Elder Theron said. "You would live in both worlds, helping our people when they need it, but also living your own life among humans. You would be free to come and go as you please." Rachel thought about her quiet life in the mountains, her photography, her peaceful solitude. Then she thought about the adventure of the past week, the incredible things she had seen and learned, the purpose she had found in helping these gentle beings. "Will there be other humans involved?" she asked. "Yes," Kira said. "There are others like you, other connectors who have been helping our people. You would not be alone." Rachel made her decision. "I'll do it." The crystal flared with brilliant light, and Rachel felt energy flowing through her like a river. She could sense the hidden valley, feel its potential, see how it could be transformed into something amazing. She guided the energy toward the valley, helping to create the dimensional bridge that would keep the alien city safe. When the light faded, Rachel felt different. Was still herself, but she was also something more. She could feel the connections between all living things, could sense the alien refugees scattered across the planet, could even feel the approaching evacuation ship. "It is done," Elder Theron said with satisfaction. "The sanctuary is created. Our people will be safe." Over the next few days, Rachel watched in amazement as the alien city took shape in the hidden valley. Using technology that seemed like magic, the refugees created buildings that were both beautiful and functional. They grew gardens that produced food in days instead of months. They built workshops where human and alien technologies were combined to create wonderful new inventions. Rachel found herself becoming a bridge between the two communities. She helped human visitors understand alien customs, and she helped the aliens understand human concerns and fears. It wasn't always easy, but it was the most rewarding work she had ever done. 1 month after the sanctuary was completed, Rachel stood on a hill overlooking the valley. The alien city was invisible to anyone who didn't know how to look for it, but to Rachel, it was the most beautiful sight in the world. Kira and Dex joined her on the hill. They looked happy and peaceful, no longer the desperate refugees she had found in the snow. "Thank you," Kira said, "for everything." "Thank you," Rachel replied, "for showing me that there's so much more to life than I ever imagined." Dex pointed to the sky. "Look." Rachel looked up and saw a shooting star streaking across the night sky, but she knew it wasn't a shooting star. It was the evacuation ship, arriving with thousands of refugees who would finally have a safe place to call home. "Ready for the next adventure?" Kira asked with a smile. Rachel laughed. "I can't wait." As the ship landed in the hidden valley, Rachel realized that her life as a lonely mountain photographer was over. But her life as a bridge between worlds was just beginning, and she had never been happier. The story that had started with 2 desperate beings in the snow had become something much bigger, a story of hope, friendship, and the incredible things that could happen when different species learned to trust each other. Rachel knew that there would be challenges ahead. Agent Thompson and the government weren't going to give up easily. There would be humans who feared the aliens, and aliens who didn't trust humans. But there would also be people like Rachel, people who believed that different species could live together in peace. And that, Rachel thought, as she watched the new refugees emerge from their ship, was worth any risk.